So the second day of the Fallout 76 beta on Xbox One is now complete. That session, of course, was significantly shorter by only being 2 hours compared to the 4 hours we got last time. And also, for those of you watching, I probably just did a live stream on the part 3 session. I'll have a link to that in little I if you do want to check it out. But in this video, I'm going to do two things. First and foremost, I'm going to give you some of my impressions on this next day of the beta. I think it's kind of cool to actually share my impressions of the game as they evolve or as I have something to say about it. Right now, we're very much so in the infancy of this game, and there's a lot I haven't experienced, so actually seeing how my impressions change or get better or worse as I do try out new things I think is kind of cool. But even beyond that, the second half of this video will actually be some highlights, one of which is actually a bunch of backstory for the Brotherhood of Steel. I'll give you a spoiler warning before I go over that. It'll probably be at the end of this video, but yeah, I thought that was kind of cool, so I figure I'll share it with you also. But before I get into that, actually, I do want to shout out my Twitter. Recently, my Twitter account got age locked, so I just lost access to it. Despite the fact that I'm 21, evidently I wasn't old enough to be using Twitter, so I had to make a new account. And as incentive for you guys to actually follow me, there's a link down below. I will be giving away one game. Like any $60 game, if you also alternatively just want $60 on PayPal, you can do that. All you have to do is follow me and retweet the tweet that I will have linked at the top of the description. I'll probably announce a winner in roughly 24 hours from this video. Kind of bummed out I lost my old account with a ton of really cool people following me, but hey, trying to make the best out of a bad situation. So if you don't care about my impressions and you just want to see the highlights, I will have a timestamp for that on screen also. But otherwise, basically one thing that really kind of marked this playthrough compared to my first one is that a lot of bugs and glitches occurred, which is rather odd considering on day 2, after 4 days of potential fixes, I had way more issues. In my first 4-hour playthrough, I think I crashed from the server one time, like it just disconnected me outright from the server. In this one, I actually had the server like freeze one time where it was like I was frozen in place and you can't move while it's trying to recover the server. I eventually just had to disconnect. Then another time the server just outright crashed and everyone was disconnected. And then another time where my game just froze. It wasn't anything server side. It seemed like it might have been my console, but it's a brand new Xbox One X, so I doubt that. And definitely one of the worst glitches we found was in the Cranberry bog. We encountered a group of wild mongrels. We couldn't do any damage to several of these guys. All the other enemies we encountered before and after this were totally fine. It was just this group from this location that seemingly were invincible. I don't think this is necessarily indicative of the final product. Of course, this still is the beta, but it was just something very interesting I wanted to point out. After my 4-hour play session with next to no issues, this time around I saw a bunch of issues. And of course, all of that in half the time. At one point, I actually froze and crashed in all of 10 minutes. But otherwise, something that really stood out to me this time was how fast the time went playing this game. I think what happened was I actually really got into the Brotherhood questline. I knew I wanted to do that because I discovered it in the previous playthrough, and this time around I really wanted to try and uncover what was going on with the Brotherhood. That 2 hours flew by. I was really impressed by this. I was really drawn into the game, and I wish I had more time. So right now, in my 6 hours of playing on Xbox One, it's really like 6.5, there is so much I haven't done. Like, I haven't remotely scratched the surface of this game. I barely have taken on any social interactions outside of just teaming up with one other person for a big chunk of it. As far as PvP or player-to-player trading, things like that, haven't done any of it. And it's definitely making me feel a little bit more confident in this game. I'm only doing one quest and it took a while. But something that really rubbed me the wrong way about that was some stages in this quest still felt artificially long. No real spoilers here, but basically you're going to get the quest to discover the Brotherhood and more specifically what happened to Fort Defiance. First and foremost, you actually have to go somewhere else to Camp Venture, and like the quest markers on this door. I think if you had a high enough lockpicking perk, you actually could get in there, but it's like level 3, which I can't imagine anyone has achieved yet. But to make a long story short, to actually get into this freaking door, you had to go to a different part of the camp, read a note posted on the wall, then go find a key, probably in a location that you already looted, and then they added in after the fact once you find the note. Then you go back to that very same door, actually get to open the door. Inside of that door, there's going to be minimal loot, maybe some good weapons. Then you find another note that you could finally take all the way back to that original terminal. So now maybe I'm being dramatic here, but it just felt like, all right, wouldn't it have just been simpler to have one note and take out that middle process? It took me like 15 minutes just to get through this one door because I had to go to all these different areas in the same camp. I don't know, it just really rubbed me the wrong way. Like it really was artificially dragging out the length of this quest. But again, outside of that and some of the bugs and glitches, I really had a great time with this playthrough. There really isn't much more for me to say on my overall impressions, but I would say I feel better about Fallout 76 after this part 2 compared to after part 1. Now I actually do want to get into some of the highlights though, because I feel like that'll really show you why I had such a good time. As I did say before, I'm going to save all the Brotherhood stuff for last and actually give you guys the audio for some of the holotapes I discovered, like the pretty known one about the Brotherhood a lot of people were speculating about. But I will have a spoiler warning before going into any of that. So a really funny moment I just want to share because I feel like it was a great way to start at the playthrough. I did team up with the same guy I did last time. I invited him to my squad, and when you fast travel to people in this game, it's like not normally right on top of them, but a little away. So I could see him running towards me on like the map, and then as he gets closer, you realize there's a massive gulper chasing him that is a much higher level than even both of our levels combined. I just thought that was quite funny when it all played out. Outside of that, we ended up killing a diseased Wendigo. This is part of another daily quest that I showed you guys last time. And something I'm seeing time and time again is even when killing a high level enemy or a rarer enemy, you still don't really get super special loot. I did get some Wendigo teeth, which maybe that's super valuable, but a lot of times it just really feels like some of the effort you have to put into taking down some of these harder foes isn't paid back in the loot you get. I found a keypadded safe, which is like one of these new kind of locked things where you have to find the note with the combination to enter that had nothing in it. So that was nice. Thanks, Bethesda. Then we found this location known as Big Maw. It seemed like it was just kind of a large pit, but in the middle was a big irradiated frog. This thing was level 40, so hypothetically it's super difficult for us to take it down. In reality, it wasn't particularly difficult to take it down, but either way, it actually was a really interesting enemy. And there are a bunch of shrines and other things here that really made this location notable outside of just the enemy itself. I found a new code on just a random scorched officer walking around, got that new code, then the server crashed and I lost it. So that sucked. But then in a crazy turn of events, I found another new code on another scorched officer. That one I actually got to keep, but it made me curious as to how this new code system works. Like, does the game want to give players certain new codes every certain while? Because the whole time span of me actually finding the first new code, crashing, and then finding the second new code was literally only 7 minutes in the playthrough. It felt like it was definitely something going on the back end. Each of those new codes were in slightly different locations in the same general area, but it definitely felt like it was intentional on the game's part. We ended up finding a supply drop, and I don't know what went on here. This just kind of highlighted some of the glitches I saw, but all of these super mutants standing around the supply drop just beelined it in the other direction when we started shooting at them. Like, I think there were 4 or 5 super mutants there, and we only had to kill one because the rest just ran away. All of them were notably higher level than us. So outside of the Brotherhood stuff, the next location I really explored here was the Cranberry Bog. I'll give you a rough idea of where it is on the map. This was probably the coolest region I've found thus far in Fallout 76, and I've explored almost all of them through my various different playtests. I don't really know what it was. I think just the atmosphere of this, some of the colors that are used here, as well as some of the very unique foliage you can find, really made it stand out to me. And if it's someplace you haven't gone yet, I would actually put that as a priority because there's a ton of high level enemies here, probably some of the highest level enemies I've found in the game thus far, and most of them are super easy to take down as long as you're with a teammate. It's a really good way to level up quickly. But immediately after actually entering into the Cranberry Bog, what we found was one of those fissures. I talked about this in a video a couple of days ago because it was in the Prima guide. Basically around the map you're going to find fissures which are effectively high level zones. There's going to be a bunch of scorched and a scorch beast, and apparently the scorched beasts come out of the ground, so this fissure is seemingly where that source is. I definitely imagine as people are trying to level up or get some decent equipment, going to some of these fissures will be a great way to really power level. And yeah, the enemies here were tough. We died several times and it was not easy to clear out at all compared to even some of the other stuff in the Cranberry Bog. I found this really cool enemy known as a Robo-Brain Tactician, which is kind of ironic because one of their quotes in Fallout New Vegas is, "I'm a much better tactician than you. It's all in the brain you see." Either way, what this guy would basically do is shoot out a smoke screen if you started firing at him. Now, this wasn't super effective in reality because you could still use VATS and pick out his exact location, but I imagine if you're trying to melee fight this enemy or actually going for a melee based build, this would make it significantly more difficult. I was also at the top of a watchtower, so he couldn't even hit me. Either way, it just really stood out to me as being very cool and unique and definitely new in this game. Just a kind of funny glitch I encountered. One of these Scorch had like some crazy glitch going on in his face. It was by far one of the scariest enemies I encountered in this game and maybe we'll never encounter again. So it's definitely something I have to share with you. Okay, so spoilers ahead, I'm going to talk about the Brotherhood's presence in the game. It's not a conclusive or comprehensive story here, but based off what I've completed of the quest, I'd like to explain what I know, and I'll actually, at the end of this video, just give you the audio for some of the holotapes in case you just want to listen to that. So of course we know the Brotherhood got access to a satellite, and even though they're on the West Coast, they managed to contact people on the East Coast in West Virginia, and they somehow joined the Brotherhood. It seems like one of the major reasons this occurred is one of the leaders of a local military force or a local military camp was friends with Roger Maxson. That's going to be Elizabeth Taggarty. In a holotape you'll hear in a second, they actually have an in-depth conversation about why the Brotherhood's here and some of her reservations negotiations with joining it, as well as some of our troops. Basically, Taggarty was the head of this thing called the Thunder. I'm not entirely clear on what this was exactly. In a lot of the terminals, they still refer to themselves as the Thunder after joining the Brotherhood, but more or less I'm thinking maybe this was the name of like their squad in the military. All of these people are already in the military and continue to train and recruit new people as part of the Brotherhood then after the bombs had dropped and, everything went down. It's not really explicitly said what the relationship between Taggarty and Maxon was, but in the holotape, Maxon refers to her as Lizzie, and I have to assume that indicates that they had some kind of relationship. They seem to have a lot of rapport for two people on opposite sides of the country. And the overall gist of it was that they more or less didn't want to just stay as the US Army. Maxon's concerns were that one of these senators would just leave one of the vaults that he was stationed in, come out and try and order them all around again, and it'd lead to another world war. They need to define themselves with the Brotherhood, become something special, and they actually also say they showed a lot of these soldiers the FEV tapes and footage. In some of the personal terminals at Camp Venture, you could actually read about some of these soldiers' reactions to seeing and hearing about what the government was doing with the FEV virus. But even beyond that, a lot of them were like, why the hell are we called squires and paladins now? That's really weird. So I definitely didn't finish this quest line yet. Basically, first you have to go to Camp Venture to find out what happened to Fort Defiance. That's a separate location. It seemed like Camp Venture was like where the Thunder was just stationed before the war, and then following events they eventually had to go somewhere else for various reasons, and that's where they end up at Fort Defiance, which was a kind of Brotherhood HQ. I managed to get to Fort Defiance. I have some footage of that, but I couldn't really get inside. I decided to do an event on the outside, and just in general there are a lot of high level enemies there, so I think I'm gonna have to level up my character more before I could properly clear it out or get a bunch of people to help me. But yeah, that was almost everything. Since again I'm sure a lot of you guys are interested, now I'll just play some of the holotapes I found. But as always, again, I do thank you guys for watching. You could probably expect a very similar video tomorrow based on the playtest I just did. But with that, I hope to see you all next time. Later.
Appalachia online, Captain.
I know most of you love America. Good old red, white, and blue. But those of us who served at Mariposa know something. America failed. Not because of its citizens who lived clean lives filled with hardship in a never-ending war. Certainly not because of its fighting men and women. God bless them. No. Its leaders failed us. Senators, generals, presidents, all those bastards. Their failure almost destroyed all mankind. But I look around here, and I see survivors. People too stubborn, people too damn ornery to die. We've fought, and we've endured, and we finally have a small patch of safety. But having a home isn't enough. We need something more. What we need is purpose. We cannot look to the America of old for that purpose. We have to build our own. So tonight, as we break bread together, let us forge together something new, something strong, something we can be proud of, something we can build upon. We'll preserve what's best of what's come before us and use it. And one day, we will reclaim what was lost. Let us forge a brotherhood of steel. Congratulations, Appalachia. Paladin Taggarty told me of your victory at Huntersville. I know it was costly, but future generations will thank you, as I am thanking you now. It makes me proud, but that's not why I'm calling. One of the Brotherhood's standing orders is being on the lookout for valuable technology. Anything that would help us in our efforts. But as I look in every direction, I see chaos. The lights are out, and men have become little better than barbarians. Civilization. Civilization is something I think of every day. I know Lizzie is probably sick of the word by now. To rebuild that, to reclaim that, our successors are gonna need the secrets of the past. And those secrets are in danger of slipping through our fingers forever. So far, our scribes have been tools to help protect our knights and maintain our bases. That needs to change. The Brotherhood is gonna be more than an armed fighting force. We are going to be the guardians of civilization. So we have to grab every schematic, every holotape, every book, every goddamn note that holds the building blocks of the old world before it is too late. Our scribes will hold on to them, preserve them, perhaps even progress beyond them. And the Knights will protect them like a hard shell around a precious seed. One day when the time is right, that seed will grow, and a new civilization will be born. This is why we were born. Don't you see it? Helping your fellow man is a good goal, a soldier's goal. But this, we will be the catalyst that changes the world. I'm sure you have questions. Paladin Integrity is fully briefed. I have every faith in you, Appalachia. Elder Maxon, out.
Thank you, Captain. It's just us.
Lizzie, what's on your mind?
A Brotherhood of Steel? What's that even mean? The men over here are confused.
We need to do something bold. We can't just stay the U.S. Army. What's gonna happen, and this is only a matter of time, is some general or some goddamn politician is gonna exit a vault and start ordering us around. And worse, they'll order some grunt to start the whole goddamn cycle again. Another wave of nuclear death, and if that's not enough, they'll do it again. You know they will, Lizzie. It ends with us. We won't let them.
I understand. But a Brotherhood? Knights? Am I supposed to call you, what, Elder?
Words have power, Lizzie. They build identity. Take on a meaning if you keep using them, even if it didn't exist before. It was the Knights and the Scribes, after the fall of Rome, that protected what was left of Western civilization. So we are the new Knights, and our role is similar. But we'll need more than names. We'll need new traditions, our own mythology. Something people can believe in to their core.
Is this necessary?
What else can I do? Declare myself president? Make you a senator? Look around, Lizzie. Something's killing us. More than the rads and the freaks out there. Depression. People have lost everyone. Every goddamn soul. Wives. Kids. Loved ones. Even the goddamn mailman. We need to replace it with something. Otherwise people's souls will wither. We'll be little more than walking dead men.
Oh, yeah.
I'll do my best to see the orders carried out, sir.
Give it time, Lizzie. People have a hunger to believe in something. Just let them work their way to it.